How you doing, everyone? Scott back again, this time with a ranking video. As you can see in the title, it's for the Bay Area thrash legends, that is Death Angel. So the last couple of days I've just been kind of running through some of their albums, some that I didn't really know as well as others, which is understandable, I suppose, and some actually took me by surprise. I mean, there were some that I didn't think I'd have to listen to, but then ended up listening to them anyway. And, you know, some were chopping and changing, so it was really good to just kind of sit, take in all the albums, just one after the other. So, yeah, it was good. And as you all know, Death Angel are a pretty consistent band. So, again, this kind of middle section of the discography it was pretty hard to place some of these albums, but I've gone through them again just last minute. I've written them down and this is my set ranking, so let's do this. Death Angel have 9 albums in total. Obviously this won't be any live albums or EPs or anything like that. I don't know if you guys have heard the new EP, but it has a cover of, I think it's Under Pressure by Freddie Mercury and David Bowie, and it's a car crash. So I'm not really in any rush to go and listen to that, but you can let me know in the comments if what your thoughts on that are. So anyway, like I said, 9 studio albums, and it ranges from 1987 to 2019, so a good range of years as well. So let's get to it. So I'll go from 9 to 1, least favourite to favourite, as usual. Makes sense? Let's do this. So, coming in at number 9 and my least favourite Death Angel album is going to be Killing Season from 2008. This isn't to say it's a really bad album. It's not a terrible album. It's just, it doesn't leave you with much. Once you've listened to it through, it's just a bit, you switch off. I kind of switch off listening to this album. It's nothing of great substance, in my opinion. I mean, there are some standout tracks like Sonic Beatdown, second track, is really good. Resurrection Machine, which ends it, is a good song, but you know, number 6 kind of sums up this album, Soulless. It's just a bit like middle of the road. I mean, it's good. You don't sit there and think this is a terrible album, but compared to the rest of this discography, it's nowhere near. So that is coming in at number 9, Killing Machine from 2008. Number 8 is going to be their comeback album. So, as a lot of you may know, they did Act 3, and then they had a bus crash, and the drummer Andy Gallion got seriously injured, so they had like a 14-year hiatus. So they came back with The Art of Dying. So this is when it took me by surprise, because I remember listening to this before thinking, do you know what, it's okay, but it's not amazing. And to be fair, it's not amazing, but it was definitely stronger than what I thought it was going to be. The first 3 tracks, Thrown to the Wolves, 5 Steps of Freedom, Thicker Than Blood, all very, very good songs. It's a really strong start, but then it kind of fades off in the middle. You've kind of got this 5-song gap of just kind of run-of-the-mill thrash, and then it kind of gets a bit stronger near the end. This is the album that I thought would kind of suffer from that kind of early 2000s production. You know how you had all those bands coming out that kind of had the same kind of template with the same kind of production. I think Killing Season suffers from that more than this, and these are 4 years apart. So yeah, I was actually quite surprised with this, and to be fair, it was a comeback album, so I know that they might not be in any sort of momentum, but still a good album and worth checking out. So that's The Art of Dying from 2004, their kind of comeback album. Number 7 is going to be, now this is a surprise, I actually thought this would rank higher in my list, but it's from 2013 and it's The Dream Calls for Blood. Yeah, it's got some really great songs on it. Left for Dead, the opening song is really good. Son of the Morning is good. Fallen, The Dream Calls for Blood itself is a good song. And then again, they kind of hit this kind of patch in the middle where it gets a bit slippery. They kind of don't show those awesome riffs and vocals. It's it kind of picks up again near the end with Empty and Territorial Instinct. But again, it has that kind of middle period where I think it's just, especially in these kind of later albums as well, Mark Ozagueda just kind of does this thing with his voice where he just kind of, he stays in this kind of the same register, this kind of screaming, shouting, and don't get me wrong, his vocals are awesome. In every single album, you can't really fault his vocals, but they're just not as varied in the later albums than they are in the earlier stuff. So that's what I would kind of wish they had nowadays, was just a bit more variety in the vocals. But yeah, I thought this would rank higher, but still some absolutely amazing songs on this. So that's The Dream Calls for Blood from 2013. That's number 7. Next up is going to be their latest album from 2019, and it's Humanicide. So if you can just see that there. And again, another great album, but Death Angel are kind of in this pattern now where, although the songs are great, they don't really vary it up that much. Although they're consistently good and the songs are consistently good, they don't have that kind of variation they used to have. But some great songs on this. I mean, you've got Humanicide, which opens the album, Divine Defector, Aggressor, I Came for Blood, Alive and Screaming is really good, The Pack's really good, Revelation Song and Of Rats and Men. They're the 2 songs that end the album, and they are absolutely tremendous as well. So it's a really strong album. But yeah, they could just maybe vary up the vocals a little bit. I know Marco Zagueda and Rob Cavastani kind of share the vocal duties in some parts, but you know, they could change it up a little bit. But still a really, really good album. So like I say, this discography is really strong, so it was a challenge. So coming in at number 5 is going to be from 2010, and it's going to be Relentless, Retribution. And this was a surprise as well. I didn't think this would be as high, but it's a great album. It's a bit long. I mean, it's 12 songs, but some of the songs in this are awesome. They do kind of have this tendency to basically have a song and then they kind of tail off at the end and do all this kind of classical stuff, which is fine, but sometimes it just kind of drags on a little bit and you're like, okay, we get it now. And I know I'm kind of saying that you need it varied, and you do need it varied, but don't vary it to the point where you're kind of hurrying the song up. But songs on this, Claws In So Deep, great song. I think it's Truce. It's either the second song or the third song is where they do the kind of wee fiddly bits at the end, which are good, but like I say, you kind of go on a little bit. River of Rapture, awesome song. Absence of Light is an awesome song. Death of the Meek. If I Chose the Sky, Where They Lay, which ends the album, it's really strong. A bit long, but strong. So that is a Relentless, Retribution from 2010, making the top 5, which I didn't think it would. Number 4, in fact, I'll just take a quick drink, again, sponsored. So, this is where it really kind of got tricky, because all these albums are very, very strong. And these could have swapped around at any given time. But number 4 is going to be 1988's Frolic Through the Park. Just a tremendous album. I'm showing you the back, I don't know why. This is really kind of like a bridge between the ultra-violence and Act 3. because it has elements from both albums. I mean, you've got the Ultraviolence, which is mostly just pure thrash, classic thrash. Then you've got Act 3, which has its obviously amazing thrash elements, but with that kind of groove style in it as well, the kind of funky bass lines. And this is kind of a mix of the two. I mean, side 1 is that kind of Ultraviolence style, and then when you flip it onto side 2, it goes more into that Act 3 kind of funk, kind of groove style. So it's a really good mixed, varied album. Really enjoy it. My favourite song on this would probably have to be, what's it called again? Is it Road Mutants? Yeah, so it starts off with Third Floor, Road Mutants. It's an awesome song. I'd say Bored and then Into Confused would probably be the weakest part of the album. Not because they're like really weak tracks. I think they just kind of run-of-the-mill tracks. Then you've got Shores of Sin, Cold Gin. And that's what I mean by, in the second half, it kind of goes into that kind of more lighter, groove orientated style, and then ends with Mind Rape. So it's a really, really strong album. Love it. So that comes in at number 4. Number 3, top 3, is going to be The Evil Divide, which I knew would come at least in the top 5. I absolutely love this album. It's just, I think it's going to end up a Death Angel classic. It's just that strong. The Moth, Lost, Father of Lies, Hell to Pay, Hatred United, United Hate, Breakaway, The Electric Cell, Let the Pieces Fall. It's just a superb album from their more recent releases. Especially The Moth. I can't get enough of that song. Track 1, what an opener. It's, when we went to see them live, that was the song, you know, you've got a couple of songs that you really want to hear. That was one of mine for Death Angel, and they did not disappoint. It was awesome. I just love that song. So that comes in at number 3. So 1 and 2, here we go. Now, these are the albums I was actually pretty sure I didn't really need to listen to because I know them quite well. But I kind of spent the time listening to the others, just kind of getting my order accurate like I like to do. And I thought, do you know what, for the sake of an hour and a half, I'm just going to stick these on. And my opinion did change. I had to change it. So I'm kind of glad I listened to these albums again, back to back. So it kind of gave me a really good comparison of how, because they're two, obviously you know what ones they are, they're two very different albums, and I suppose it kind of comes down to what kind of mood you're in at the time. I think these could kind of flip-flop, but I've set this as my 1 and 2, and I'm not going to put it off any longer. So coming in at number 2, the debut, the Ultraviolence. So there's no doubt about it that this is an absolute thrash classic. I mean, an absolute classic. And when you think back at how young these guys were, I mean, they must be, what, 15, maybe 14 to 17 years old. It's a monster of an album for pretty much just young teenagers. I mean, you would never think when you listen to this album, it's young boys basically putting this album out. It's a monster. Kicks off with Thrashers, Evil Priest, Voracious Souls, awesome. Kill As One. I don't know how many songs would have been influenced by the Ultraviolence. When you listen to that, the intro and the outro, I mean, that could be used in so many songs back then and recently. That, I reckon that's had a massive influence on a lot of bands and a lot of songs. I mean, it is a bit long, 10 minutes. You could cut it down to maybe 7 minutes. But nonetheless, awesome song. Mistress of Pain, Final Death. It's just awesome. And then if you're wanting that just kind of straightforward, classic 80s thrash, just that old school element. I mean, you don't go wrong with the Ultraviolence. Just an amazing album. So that is at number 2. So obviously that's giving away my number 1, and this was going to be my number 2, but I listened to these two back to back and I thought I can't put it at number 2. It's got to be up there, got to be top spot. Act 3 from 1990, just an awesome album. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying about Death Angel. Like, in the present day, I wish they would kind of go back to this style, this kind of varied style. I mean, although they have those breaks in the albums where they kind of slow it down a bit and it's not all thrash. I mean, I think the production's samey as well, but this, if they would go back to this, listen to this and then write another album and use this as a template, I mean, it's absolutely awesome. When you go through the tracks, Seemingly Endless Time, Veil of Deception, The Organisation, Discontinued, A Room with a View, XTC, Disturbing the Peace, Falling Asleep. It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And I mean, that's not taken away from this, because these are two amazing albums. But this is diverse. You know, Room with a View is, I would say, a risk for a band like Death Angel, you know, classic Bay Area thrash. That's a risk to take, writing a song like that and putting it on an album in 1990. But that is such an amazing song, and it's just a very, very strong album. I mean, the top two can arguably flip flop between each other, but I had to go for Act 3 because it's just an absolute classic. So that is my tip top for Death Angel, Act 3. Just absolutely awesome. So there you have it. That was a really enjoyable discography to go through. Like I said, I think I actually split it up by one album. I think I actually started from the present day. I started with Humanicide and worked my way back. Apart from my top 2, I listened to them back to back, and it was really enjoyable. You know, Death Angel, like I've said in this video, that they've got a very, very strong discography. So going through it and having to place them, it's been really hard, but really good as well. You just get to know those albums just a little bit better as well. I mean, even the top 2, which I thought I knew really, really well, you go back and you know, when you're really diving into the albums, getting a bit of depth to kind of, because what you're doing is picking out flaws. I mean, the better the album you've got in your head, you're really trying to, you know, they're both good, but you're trying to basically pick the most flaws in each one. So really, really difficult, but really enjoyable. So that is it. As usual, let me know in the comments, please, what you think. What's your top 5, top 3, your top album? I look forward to hearing from you. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.